Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Simone Taylor, a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, and I'm coming back with part 2 of this series. If you haven't checked out part 1, I highly suggest that you check it out. In part 1 on how to start the therapy process, I go over the most common ways to go ahead and start the process, as well as what's the difference between in-person and virtual therapy services. So check that out if you haven't already, but welcome to part 2 of this series. And today we're going to be going over consultations. You may have heard of free consultations or even paid consultations when it comes to therapy. What exactly is that? We're going to be covering that today, as well as covering insurances, to use insurance, to not use insurance, and then finally we're going to cover, if you're interested in starting therapy, how do you even go about going ahead and starting and getting into that first session. So a lot of topics to cover today in part 2, so stay tuned. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so number 1, consultations. I know y'all probably have seen consultations before or maybe heard of that term. So basically what that means in therapy is that you're going to meet with the therapist. It's not an official session, but you're going to meet and you're just going to consult with that therapist and kind of ask some questions, and also the therapist is able to ask you questions to try to get to know each other, to see if y'all are vibing together, if the therapeutic relationship would be a good one or a good fit. If not, you can kind of move on and find someone else. But in the consultation, you can ask some helpful questions. One of the questions you can ask is, as the client, is how is the therapeutic sessions going to be set up? What is the therapist skilled in? How much would the sessions cost, if the therapist takes insurance or not. You can get all the logistics and specifics about the therapy in that first consultation. That's why it's not considered an official session, because in an official session it's going to be all about you, but in that consultation appointment you get to ask more questions about the actual therapist, and they also get to ask some questions if they would like about you. So that consultation could be very important, especially if you're just starting therapy for the first time or you're changing therapists. You want to get to know that new person, and you want to see if that person is going to be able to service your individual needs. Usually with these consultations, they could either be paid or they could be free. So sometimes, as like a little perk or bonus, some therapists offer free consultations. It's usually a time limit on them, so they may be between 15 to 30 minutes, and they may be either virtual or over the phone. Usually they are over the phone, but you can kind of talk with each other for that allotted time, and then you can choose to schedule your first session appointment afterwards. So consultations, I highly recommend. Check them out if your therapist offers them. So number 2 topic, to use insurance or to not use insurance. And honestly, this is a hot topic. I will tell you about my experience with insurance and therapy, and then y'all feel free to comment below any other experiences that y'all have had with using insurance or not using insurance. So typically when you use insurance, there's 2 ways that you can go about using insurances, okay? One is where you go through your direct network provider, whatever insurance company you have. You can actually call them. Just a little tip for those of y'all that may not know, you can actually call your insurance company, speak to a representative, and ask them, hey, could I have some therapy services, or could you help me find a therapist in my area? And you can tell them, hey, I really want telehealth services, which is like virtual therapy, or I want to go in person to see someone. And usually they'll be able to assist you. Like they are really good about actually giving you a list. They can either email it to you or message it to you if you would like, and then you'll have a list of some of the therapists that are around your local area that is actually in network with your insurance provider. So that could be very helpful if you don't have the time to find your own therapist and you may need some assistance with it because you're trying to use insurance. And then also, like, that's just a perk. They're there for customer service, so they can assist you with that if you need it. So To use insurance, usually if you're using insurance for therapy, you will want to use a therapist that's in network. Now, if you have a therapist that you really like and they're out of network, don't panic. You can still use them. You just may have to get kind of strategic about how you want to go about using them. So some insurance plans can reimburse for out of network therapists or therapists that doesn't take your insurance. They may be able to do that with something called a super bill. So with the super bill, your provider, your therapist should be aware of what a super bill is. So basically it's like a bill, kind of like a receipt. It shows all the specifics of like just kind of what you're seeing a therapist for. It's like snippets of it so your insurance can like be aware that you need that service, and then it's going to show how much it costs, all of that, and then you will submit that as a claim to your insurance company, and then they should be able to process it and reimburse you. So it is a little bit of a process because it's indirect instead of being directly billed to the insurance company. So you may, like I said, have to pay out of pocket first before you can use that kind of strategy. But that is an option if you're wanting to go out of network or see a provider that doesn't take your insurance. So if your provider takes your insurance, you should be good to go. The insurance will be billed directly. They'll cover whatever percentage that they said that they were covering your plan, and then you may be responsible for a deductible or you may not. So it just depends on what type of individual plan that you have. I highly recommend calling your insurance company to find out more details about your individual plan for behavioral health services or therapy services, okay? So, not using insurance, usually that's like the self-pay route, and this is an option as well. Like if you can save up a couple, allocate a couple dollars each month to go towards therapy, you can do the self-pay route. You don't even have to bother with billing with insurance or dealing with that part of things. If you don't have insurance, I would highly recommend finding a therapist that could either work with you on a sliding scale fee. So I kind of look at sliding scales as like a discount. Essentially, they may go by your income, your annual income, and give you a discount based on how much you make per year. Or they just may go by, hey, I don't have it right now, so can you give me like an affordable fee? Just starting off or for this amount of time for a couple sessions until I'm able to pay your standard fee. So sliding scale fees are very essential, and I highly recommend for those individuals that have to pay out of pocket but maybe can't afford the full fee. If you can, then that's great, but some individuals, they need therapy and they just can't afford the full fee because therapy can be expensive if you need it frequently, and the fee is like $100+, right? So that can add up quickly for some people. So that sliding scale fee may give you a discount that is more affordable and within your budget. All right, y'all. So now we're on our third and final topic for this part 2 series, and that is what to do if you're actually interested. So say you go through the process and you found someone that you really vibe with, that you really like, and you want to continue on to the next session or go to that official first session. What to do then? What to do if you're interested in starting and beginning your first session in therapy? So one thing that I would recommend is you can email your therapist. So contacting your therapist in some way. So you can email or call their number if they have their business number or phone number available. So call them or email them, let them know that you're interested. Even if they don't answer when you call, be sure to leave a voicemail, because a lot of times we do listen to our voicemails and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So leave a voicemail if they don't answer, or send an email and say, hey, I really want to set up my first appointment. How can we go about doing that? And so they may ask for some forms to begin. So they may need some personal information from you. And that's usually to enter into their confidential HIPAA compliant platform or system. So that way they can, now that they know that you're interested, they can go ahead and begin to put you in the system. So that way all your information will be stored there, and then they'll share that with you. So they may need some documents, and maybe like an ID or even like date of birth, things like that, like minimal things just to get you started, along with your first name, maybe phone number, things like that, email address if they don't have it already on file, just to go ahead and send you some documents. And then usually you're going to go through the whole intake process, which I can get into everything with intake and intake assessments or intake documentations and therapy in a whole separate video. So if you're interested in that, please comment below and let me know. But usually they're going to go ahead and start the process of getting you in and scheduling that first session with you. And usually that starts with some forms, and once you fill out those forms, release of information form or consent forms, informed consent forms, is a couple different forms that kind of start the therapy process. But once those forms are filled out and completed, you'll send those back to your therapist, or they'll be in the platform that you're going to be using for therapy, and then schedule your first session when you're available and when that therapist is available. And next thing you know, like I talked about in part 1, you can either be in person, so you actually are going to meet your therapist in their setting, or you can be virtual and you can stay in the comfort of your own home or setting. But whatever it is, your first session will be on the way. So that kind of wraps up the process of how to start and begin therapy. I know I talked about a couple different nuanced terms in between. I promise I will cover those topics in separate videos. But if you're interested in more content like this one, feel free to leave me a comment, leave me some feedback, and I will definitely try to get those videos up in the future that relate to what y'all want to see. So stay tuned for more helpful content all about therapy, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.